Hello. Welcome, my friends. Me, your host, Shek said, coming to you live from the Queen City, Radio City. It's slightly warmer and really cold today. Too long? You can hear me. You had it queued up. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, all my deficiencies already. We'll see in a second. You can see me too. All these events here. Welcome, folks. How the hell are you? It seems like forever since I did the last one of these, and that's only like 4 days ago. Hopefully you caught our emergency one with my friend Adam Roth on Friday. That was pretty cool. Not cool as in what's going on out there, but cool in that he was able to give us an update and hopefully educate us more about what was happening. Adam may check in with us again. I'm thinking a little bit later. I'm thinking maybe tomorrow or Thursday. We'll have him come back, see what we can find out, see where things are. So, you know, hopefully this show actually provided a newsworthy purpose too, in addition to just pointing out who all the horrible people are in our media and politics and the rest, although I guess that's newsworthy on its own. First, I want to acknowledge that, you know, as most of you probably know, many of you know from if you're coming from Tony's show, other places, the Jack Smith report did come out. I'm not doing my rant on that today because it would lead me into a rant on Merrick Garland and Democrats' lack of using PR and generic Republican evil. And I've done rants on all of those before. Know that obviously that it's important to mention because it shows us what we knew already, which is Donald Trump committed offenses that Jack Smith believed would have him absolutely locked away in prison. And if you read the thing, you can see that he absolutely would be locked away in prison. And once again, our system failed us for the various reasons we've talked about before. And I will bring them up again at times when we need to get better at them, when we're not using the bully pulpit again, when we're not using the microphone in places where we should be, as we should have been at the DOJ then constantly. But that sparkling over here for a bit. Oh, well, hope there's some sparklers here too. The Garland has no balls rant from Big Steven fan. Yes, that would be the one. I've done that rant before. I've done that both separately for my YouTube channel and like an earlier videos and the more recent ones. And again, if you wanted a summary, the gist of it simply is even whatever the legal constraints were on him, and you can debate that, there were no PR constraints on him except for him following precedent that no longer existed. He very simply could have told people every week that there were domestic terrorists in the Trump administration and didn't have to give specifics of cases, and Trump never would have been able to redefine January 6th. Okay. And that's one of the reasons Trump won. But let's talk about Jennifer Rubin today. Here's your Cliff's Note rant, because Jennifer Rubin is somebody I know, friendly with. Wouldn't say we're close. I don't know her that well, but I like her writing, and even when I disagree with her, it was a hell of an exit from the Washington Post. You may know their cartoonist or illustrator left recently, and I can't remember how her last name is pronounced, so I'm just going to say that because they wouldn't publish a cartoon criticizing Bezos. What a shock that Amazon is, of course, creating a documentary on the wonderfully great and accomplished Melania Trump, who posed naked to get into this country illegally and then got her parents in by marrying Donald Trump and sits there as her husband. That creature attacks all sorts of immigrants when she knows that's the situation and tries to tell people to be best, which I think she just said again lately, which makes me want to hurl. And he, you know, he killed their endorsement, the Washington Post, which led a number of people to resign, of Kamala Harris, Jeff Bezos. Oh, he gave $1 million, which is just unimaginable, from Amazon, you know, the Amazon side, because those are totally separated. It's not the same scumbag Jeff Bezos, who clearly has a small wank and will do anything for power to make him feel like a really big, tough guy, because he doesn't have enough money already. It doesn't matter that people are starving and hurting and don't have jobs in some certain places and anything else that's wrong with the world. His money could pay for universal health care. He needs to feel better about himself because clearly he was a loser incel in high school. Right, that Jeff Bezos. In any case, he gets torched, and we're going to read it to you because you may not have seen it. It's just good stuff. So here you go from Jen Rubin. Corporate and billionaire owners of major media outlets have betrayed their audience's loyalty and sabotaged journalism's sacred mission, defending, protecting, and advancing democracy. The Washington Post's billionaire owner, right? She's calling him out immediately, and enlisted management are among the offenders. They have undercut the values central to the Post's mission and that of all journalism, integrity. I cannot justify remaining at the Post. Jeff Bezos and his cronies accommodate and enable the most acute threat to American democracy, Donald Trump, at a time when a vibrant free press is more essential than ever to our democracy, to our democratic survival and capacity to thrive. I therefore resigned from the Post effective today. In doing so, I join a throng of veteran journalists so distressed over the Post's management, they felt compelled to resign, and we've talked about that lately. They decided, Bezos did, my little side thing, that democracy would die and it would be dark. Although I think he's doing it in the bright lights of daylight because he doesn't care, except for the fact that he's a vampire, so he might have to hide from daylight. I digress. The decay and compromised principles of corporate and billionaire-owned media underscore the urgent need for alternatives. Yes. Americans are eager for innovative and independent journalism that offers lively, unflinching coverage free from cant, conflicts of interest, and moral equivocation. Solid use of alliteration there, and she's right about all of that. The BS, the conventional wisdom, all of it. That's what we do at Cliff's Edge here. That's why I'm glad you're here right now, and that's what I will promise you to do at any platform I am able to be. I will talk about that in a little bit, which is why I'm thrilled to simultaneously announce this new outlet, The Contrarian, not owned by anybody, and that is her outlet that will be at Substack. I'm going to skip forward because I want to go get back to the point here, and I will have her on to promote it if she would like, and there will be plenty of places to do that. The need for upstart outlets has never been more acute. The contradiction between, on the one hand, the journalistic obligation to hold the powerful accountable, and the other, the financial interests of billionaire moguls, keeps the message right where it needs to be, folks, and corporate conglomerates could not be starker. The Post's own headline last month warned, quote, Trump signals plans to use all levers of power against the media. Press freedom advocates say they fear their second Trump administration will ramp up pressure on journalists. We all know it. He just attacked Seth Meyers, who's not even a journalist, a comedian, and attacked Comcast for allowing him to attack Trump. Trump just did some rant at Truth Social or whatever it's called. Truth Social, yeah, that's a good one. And they want Seth Meyers kicked off. So, yeah, he's already doing it in keeping with the president-elect's combative rhetoric. And yet the Post owner quashed a presidential endorsement for Trump's opponent, forked over $1 million for Trump's inauguration through Amazon, and publicly lauded Trump's agenda. She didn't even mention that Melania Trump gets a documentary, and that may get me the most upset. I mean, I've got a lamppost here that would like a documentary and is more deserving. I don't know. It's orange. Anybody watch The Godfather out there? You know what oranges tend to signify? I'll let you look that up. In any case, yeah. So, right. Documentary and Trump love, and they're great. And Jeff Bezos has been puckered up now for weeks, months, years. None of us can imagine Katharine Graham, the old publisher of the Post, sending LBJ or Nixon a $1 million check. No, it wouldn't have happened. It would have been, as is now, a fundamental betrayal of a great American newspaper. Defense of the First Amendment is incompatible with funding or cheerleading for the very person who seeks to, quote, drastically undermine the institutions tasked with reporting on the coming administration. And here she goes into a few other things. We're just about done, but the scathing part against Bezos is still coming. The Post's downfall is hardly unique. ABC, Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, yeah, that little punk. We're going to get to him at some point too. Rant on that little douche. Meta and corporate-owned cable TV networks, which have scrambled to enlist Trump-friendly voices, are catering to powerful. Hold on, to powerful what? To powerful people. To powerful. We're going to find out in a second. Interests, powerful interests, of course, driven by profound corporate conflicts, instead of guarding their own independence. The financial leaders, politicians, other public figures currying favor with Trump and his orbit through classic anticipatory obedience, a dangerous but all too familiar pattern. They normalize the authoritarian menace. Okay. She goes off on Trump some more and says, instead, owners whose outlets he targets quite literally will reward him for doing so. This is so true. I want to reiterate, I've been honored to work over 14 years beside the finest writers and editors and journalism. Above all, blessed to work for the Post under the Graham family ownership, Fred Hite's leadership, the editorial section. My admiration for their collective integrity, dedication to craft, and decency is boundless. But when new leaders sully the reputation of institutions to them and the fate of democracies in the balance, we must reevaluate our careers and our obligations to the world's most essential nation. History calls us all. I treasure the readers who have stuck with us over the years and invite them, those interested in defeating authoritarianism as well as content creators, to join this exciting new venture in defense of democracy. So I was wrong. I guess the Bezos hitting, most of it was up front, and I just sort of read through it without sort of thinking about it. But obviously, she went straight at Bezos. She went at other billionaires, but said the owner of this outlet. She talked about what he had done to undermine the outlet, the killing of the cartoon and the editorial cartoon and the editorial endorsing Kamala Harris. Our media is a joke. Our corporate media is owned. Our monopolies run everything in this country. There's literally 3 or 4 choices for everything, and we are suffering because of it, because they realize they can get away with anything. And these billionaires who it just went, the line from the movie Wall Street at some point where Charlie Sheen, a different Charlie Sheen, turns to Michael Douglas, and at some point he's like, how many boats can you water ski behind? I think is the line. How much is enough? And sometimes you want, these people are they're cretins. They are just morally just disgusting. There's something wrong with them. That evolution tells us to gather resources to protect our families and, to keep the species going. What is wrong with you when you've collected those kinds of resources that you need to collect more? What has happened to you? Who has hurt you? What have you failed at? And what do you hate about yourself? These are all the questions, but there's no winning back anything in America without properly regulating the hell out of these billionaires, raising the hell out of their taxes, breaking apart monopolies into pieces, as I believe Teddy Roosevelt once said. We will never get back the America we had. And it's that simple. And this has been Cliff's note. So hopefully that resonated with you somewhat. How are we all doing? I'll just put a little sort of, a little ending to that, epilogue, if you will. Again, what Jen is talking about there is what Tony, if for those of you who came from Tony's show, I can just say Tony. For those who didn't, Tony Michaels, who's a good friend and often on the show and sitting right there. So holy crap, I should let him in. Often talks about.
Yeah. Hey, how's it
going? It's what I talk about because there's no getting around it anymore. And that's what I appreciated, why I chose to read Jen's letter. Because I've just been like, Jeff Bezos, you're kind of a smarmy little schmuck. I really can't stand you. You have the odor of farts whenever you walk in the room. I still would have enjoyed it if she'd quit that way. But she didn't just quit that way. She quit with a message that is just the most key message right now. There's them and there's us. There's the billionaires and the monopolies that never have enough, that control everything, including the Washington Post, and have already proven again and again that journalistic integrity, any integrity, means nothing to them. They've destroyed that paper's reputation, Bezos and his cronies. That's who they are, because nothing's ever enough. And then there's the rest of us. And they've made it as clear day in and day out that if we are going to get back to a country where we had created the greatest middle class in the history of the world, we had a working class that on one paycheck could go on vacations to the beach on weekends and could own a house and all the rest. If we're ever getting anywhere close to that again, we need to put the billionaires back in the place where they were in that period of time, as in 90% tax rates, as in, wealth taxes, as in massive regulations on their companies, breaking them apart so nobody could own too much. And I've now done enough of my little spiel, and I want to bring Tony in for what he has to say on this.
I'm actually, interesting enough, I'm writing an email currently to Substack because you'll find this interesting. Seeing that it's kind of the place of independent voice. I think that's why Jen and Norm Eisen are kind of going, gravitating toward that space to talk to their audience. Apparently, Substack is going to be allowing live streaming very soon. So that's
exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting. And the reason why is because I believe that Substack could not only, because of how the publication part is laid out, I believe that it could really start to replace places like YouTube. Now, I don't mean like they could overtake YouTube's market, but they could overtake YouTube's market share in the political space that people might.
But you know what else they could do, Tony? And again, this is what's so important. as Elizabeth in there in here says, greed is a deadly sin. It sure is. And there sure is a hell of a lot of it these days. Is what it could do is provide competition. And that is what
Right.
they have killed with their billions of dollars to shut people up, threaten people, sue people, competition of ideas in general. But that is what big monopolies have killed by owning everything. You can't compete with a YouTube. And again, I've dealt with it this week. One of the three, the one, of course, always the one that has the most people. I've replayed my interview with Adam Roth, my friend, 2 times. On the initial one, where so many people, I mean, I think we had 5,000 or 6,000 people. It was a great audience. They partially monetized it. What did we do for those who watched it in that particular live stream that they could justify partially monetized? Because we talked about fire. Is that too? I mean, are we honestly? Are we on Sesame Street? I mean, is it that if we talk about anything that might upset anybody who's above 4 years old, that we can't? I mean, he wasn't screaming and yelling. I'm sure I cursed once or twice. I'm sure he did too. I know plenty of people get away with that. So I can't believe it's that. We weren't sitting there, it wasn't like, hey, let's talk about, start playing some funky music and be like, ooh, the pizza man's arriving while the fire's out. No, we didn't do that either. And you know what? I couldn't even say the word. We didn't have corn on here. I mean, I literally need to come up with rhymes because that's how childish this all is, and why I have been moving, as I've told a lot of you, and I'm going to encourage you again to please follow me at Patreon. And Jim, if you've got that link, could put that up. And soon, Jim, I should have gotten you my Substack link. If you find that somewhere, put that up, please. Those are the 2 places I have found that nobody tells me what I can say and what I can't say, and where there's actual freedom. And yeah, I've called for censorship often of disinformation. There should be. We don't handle that, take care of that enough. And when it comes to hate crimes against people, that's different. That's threatening. That's online behavior that threatens people, as experts have pointed out. I'm talking about just describing stuff, like where an algorithm, you can't even debunk bad stuff you get. And I'm just, I'm going to be here when most of my videos are still going to be here. This is where it has to be right now. But I'm damn glad that Substack is going to provide that. I'm glad that Patreon's providing something, where again, guys, initially you can go check out Patreon and Substack for free. There's literally no reason not to sign up for both of them, everybody. And then you can decide, because there are different pay levels after that, what you want, what you don't want. Thank you for that, Jim. So there's nothing to lose there. But I'm exhausted by this, by putting in the kind of work. I mean, getting that interview together with Adam was not easy. We had to figure out he was going to be on his phone. Was he going to be somewhere where he was going to get access to any kind of a signal and all this? And we brought people what I would consider to be crucial information. And they and when they say partially demonetized, that means 80% or so. It's just, it's insane. I don't know what else to say. I'm freaking tired of it.
Well, and now I'll tell you that demonetizing is censoring as well. We need to start looking at this as they're trying to make sure to put the boot on creators' heads that they don't want them to say the stuff that they say. In my case, I've been talking to the audience about my appeal that was rejected from Google, and they say it's invalid traffic. And again,
don't be evil,
right? Invalid traffic. And then I don't know, you can't find what it is. And when I appeal, they will not tell me what it is. They absolutely refuse to tell me what the invalid traffic is that I had. And I've got 76 million views.
That is the worst part.
That's the part that needs to be changed, frankly. I mean, I mind them demonetizing me, right? But the thing I mind more, and the thing I guess I should say I will not tolerate, is that they won't tell me why. This is ridiculous. They still will let me post content. They acknowledge that I have 76 million views because my account has that. They'll let me live stream. They'll let me do all these things, but they will not tell me why they won't let me monetize my channel. It's frankly, it's starting to feel like they're evading my civil rights.
Well, it's starting to feel like they're targeting you.
Well, I mean, of course they are. But the thing is that now it's become a thing where it's like, why won't you just tell me? I mean, if you just tell me, maybe I'll move on. Maybe I can make a decision from there, but I don't feel like I can make an informed decision when they're just like, no, and you can never get it. That's basically what they've told me, Cliff, is not only are they not giving it back to me, I can never get it back. There is nothing I can do to rectify the situation. And they won't tell me why.
Well, and again, I've told you that before with my inquiries to them. So when the number, few thousand subscribers disappeared each time, which killed the algorithm for me quite clearly, like literally put me in quicksand. And I'm just like, just tell me if it's bots. Why can't you tell me that? I mean, who doesn't tell you? Who's so? I want to curse, and again, I can't curse. I'm a fucking child. Yeah, I just did it. Let's see if you demonetize me for that. I mean, what world are we in? And like, how is it that you can sit there? I can never imagine that. You're a company. I'm using your service. You're making money off of it, and you won't tell me what I can do to make sure that still keeps being an incentive to me. Like, are you insane? I mean, what is so difficult about saying there were bots, we removed them?
Right.
Okay. Now I understand what you did. Thank you.
It's almost like that they feel a need to put you in your place. Like they own you, because they do. They own your channel. They own the audience. They just give you this little privilege of posting your content there. And if they like you enough in that moment, then maybe they will, or maybe they won't monetize you based on that partnership agreement. Because frankly, they're not living up to their end of the agreement. And that's what needs to be changed. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means like a bill needs to be passed, which, I mean, God knows it's difficult right now. But, if you think about it, Cliff, really a piece of legislation where the freedom of speech is at question with these big, maybe MAGA and Trump will back something like that.
Like I mean, yeah, that's the problem is they're corporate to the core. There should be a consumer bill of rights of some sort for any company.
But I mean, Trump was kicked off these platforms. Shouldn't he be sympathetic to the cause that
you think? But you're using logic with.
Well, I know, but I mean, think about this. But think about this. This is the nonsense you get from MAGA over on Twitter and MAGA on any is, we're censored. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say you can only censor one person. And I'm not for censoring.
Well, I've never been, by the way, but they want it. But that's the thing is they're not real people. Like they're not. When I say not real, I'm sure some of them aren't real people, but they're not real humans, as in thinking, evolved beyond basement level humans, because they don't care. I mean, it's me. They see things completely differently for themselves as for other people, or they couldn't be the racists they are and the sexists they are and everything else that they are. I mean, but again, that's the part. If you give me reasoning on things, okay. And when it comes to the partial demonetization, just tell me. Right. I mean, if they would just give me a couple words and say, these are the words you used, I might think it's stupid, but I would, at least I would know. So I wouldn't be sitting here having to not being 100% of who I want to be, because certain topics come up, any cursing or whatever, but certain topics come up having to do with healthcare or having to do with wars in Europe or whatever. And I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say or not, because they in the past have told you're not allowed to talk about these topics. They cannot be monetized. And it's like, I mean, give me a break. Like if you are not willing to spend the money to hire the people to differentiate between the people that are spreading lies about this stuff and who are trying to debunk those lies and tell the truth, then you're not worthy of existing as a company. I mean, and I'll tell you what it feels like. And again, I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but I'm trying to sort of give this as a parallel for people about what the government can become. It feels like fascism is what it feels like. Because that's what it is.
Right.
I'm choosing to be a part of it, so that's on me. For doing that for various reasons, but it's exactly like fascism. It's because fascism isn't just fascism. That's why the symbol, the power of the fist and all of that. It's not just about I own you and I don't need to explain anything to you. I'm going to tell you what to do and you're just going to do it. You have no rights. You can't reach somebody to ask questions. You didn't reach out to the Nazi party and say, hi, can I speak to HR, please? It's not the way they tell you what to do. You do it, or they do whatever they want to you. Well, again, I'm not saying this is anything nearly as bad as that. I'm just saying it's that kind of, what am I looking for? That kind of ethic, right? That kind of feeling to it, which is, we owe you nothing. We're not going to tell you anything. But if you go across our invisible lines, we're just going to take your money away. Oh, and when you appeal, you'll be right every single time, but we won't admit that till 4 days later when nobody's watching it anymore.
Well, and that's the thing is who does it affect? Like, obviously it's affecting us as creators, but it's affecting our communities. Our communities are being affected by this, and the reason why is because a lot of folks give up. They just,
right.
I mean, I've been doing this for 4 years, 76 million views without being monetized. And I should have gave up a long time ago, probably, but I haven't. I haven't given up yet. I haven't given up on my community because they matter. The community matters.
You're unique in that you care about things.
Right. Well, I mean,
maybe I shouldn't say you're unique. There's a decent number of people that do, but there are a lot that don't.
Right. But the thing is that there's probably plenty of creators out there that would have continued, may have made great strides in their commentary, would have great live streams, would have built large communities of people and communities of people who can cross-pollinate to other communities and spread the word of democracy, spread the word of liberalism. I mean, but guess what? That progressive voice is what they don't want, apparently. And that's how they stifle it, is they starve it off, and they starve off these communities because these creators don't have a chance to connect with their communities, and these communities connect with each other, other than people who are just so damn stubborn like me, probably.
Well, yeah. And look, I've stuck in there too. And it's the reason why I've been, and I'll say people again, please, please, please go to Patreon, even for free, and sign up, and please check out the Substack and go there and sign up. Because in the end, look, you know this. So, I mean, I talk to you offline or whatever, and the thing about having a community and caring about these folks who take their time to come here, offer their thoughts, tell me about their lives, tell us about their lives, is, for me to be honest with them. And I think I've said this to you before, folks. I mean, I have thought a couple of times about shutting it down. I haven't because it two reasons. One, you guys, as Tony said, like the community feeling of this is fantastic. And
it takes a lot of work to get there. It takes a lot of work to get there.
Right. Even to get to where I've gotten to, I'm at 100,000 subscribers. And I got to tell you, like, if you think suddenly at that level, I am monetized in the way that Tony isn't, but if you think I'm bringing in a lot of money, I'm not. And that's because they demonetize some things. And, just because I have 100,000 subscribers doesn't guarantee folks, like, these things do pretty well when they're monetized. But I put out other separate videos and whatever, and they're hit and miss. Some of them can do really well. And I've gotten probably 30, 40, 50 videos with over 100,000 views, maybe 20 with over 200,000. I don't know, less, 10, 15. And there are a lot that can even make 50 or 75,000 or something like that. And that you can make some money on. I've got plenty that, I put out. If you go look at my videos, I don't get 2,000, 3,000 views. I put a lot of work into those videos, and I don't make anything back from it. I take these commentaries from this show, and that makes it a little easier to do as a separate thing. But even those, there have to be edits and work done. And, I mean, again, like, it puts you in this place where, and I said, you guys are one reason. And the second reason is my, the way I was brought up and the belief in democracy and this country's democracy. And, like, I don't know if my voice is doing any good, but if it's even doing a little bit of good, I feel like I have the time to do this because I'm lucky because I have another company that I don't have to spend as much time on that's been doing okay. But there is a point where you're like, my God, I'm putting in all these extra hours. I love this community. I care about fighting for democracy. But, like, at some point, right, I'm not an indentured servant.
Right. Well, and that's the trouble is that the billionaire monopoly state platforms like YouTube, like Facebook, like Twitter, and these others, they're turning us into indentured servants.
Right.
And that's what I feel like Substack is not. That's why, and again, I'm not being paid to say this about Substack. I just really believe it because right now that may change.
No, I know
it
you
may all change.
You've tried it. And you've been excited as hell about it because it's been actually working in
right
the way it should. You work your butt off. You write your posts.
Right.
People respond to them, and then nobody says, "Sorry, we're censoring that post. You could only make this much from it, and we're taking it offline." Like, you don't run into that. So
no.
I can speak. I mean, if and maybe people think you and I are in some vast conspiracy, but as long as they trust, I mean, I'm Jewish, so there's at least a 50% chance of that. But at
least to some people. At
Yeah,
least to
exactly. I
something.
mean, come on.
Right?
You know, McDavos planning all, but as long as like people believe that in my honesty and your honesty, I can tell you, yeah, Tony's been excited as hell about it, but for the right reasons. Because if he works his butt off and writes for it, it reaches people.
Right.
And like
Well, and they're responding.
glad-
I think to give the audience an idea on Substack, I think my numbers, and this is pretty typical, like with emailing folks. I think it's over 30% open rates. I mean, I'm getting thousands of people to read the articles, which only tells me that they're resonating with the audience, that the audience likes them, and they're very
that
similar.
means they're sharing them, right? Because
Right,
you
they're
know what your
very right,
subscribers are.
exactly. I'm getting more and more people, and it feels like that because I've really tied them to my commentary, especially in the A block on my show. It feels a lot like an article about the commentary, the lead commentary for the lead story, and I think people appreciate that. And whether they come watch the show or not, they're reading the articles. They're definitely reading the articles and consuming those. And when you're a content creator, that's what you're really looking for is your audience, your core audience, enjoying your content. And if that's the case, then you should keep going. And that's why I have kept going, even though I haven't been making money on YouTube. But Substack, unlike Blue Sky, unlike some of these other platforms, they allow the creators to have an audience and to monetize, to keep creating their
Right.
whether it's writings or videos,
In other words,
whatever the content is, to keep going.
Right, because I throw it out there because before we were we all accepted the creator thing. There was something known as an author. I'm one of those. A column writer. I wrote columns. I got paid for that. You should be paid for
right. It's work.
Up.
It's
and
work.
They figured out how to get us to do it on places like Twitter and Facebook and not get paid.
Do it for free,
You know
and then they make all the money.
Right, and I want to say two things. I've got this up by Jim here. And I want to say quickly, you're exactly right. The reason why I have this up here, and there's a second comment I want to put up, and it's why I'm pushing Patreon and Substack so hard, is that I think around November, I looked it up the other day, was when I hit around 95,000 or so when the election came around. Like I was gaining a solid 10, 15,000 subscribers a month because of the people they took away from me. And granted, some of this is because of people, everything's been down since the election. It always is in December and January, but people were depressed about what happened. Some people just tuned out. I get that. So I know that some of it's that. I'm not saying it's all on them. But the 5,000-6,000, they disappeared from my account in those two different times. Plus, what that does to the algorithm is it tells the algorithm you're shrinking, nobody wants to pay attention, and you have to like get it going again. Because again, we're living under algorithms too, as if that's not fascistic, right? And futuristic, like dystopian crap,
right?
But on top of that, like there, with what was being asked about here, hold on, I want to find that comment if I can. And I'm not doing a good job.
Well, I was going to say,
but
why you're looking for it. I was going to say why you're looking for it, because to this point, when I first started on Substack and I started writing, and I didn't have very many people over there but then I discovered that I could actually take my audience that I had and apply them to my newsletter, which was kind of cool. But one thing that was very interesting, Cliff, about this bot thing, and then I've got to go. I'll let you do your thing here. But Substack actually gave me a warning and said, "Hey, if you see fluctuation in your following, it's because we have detected a ton of bot accounts, and we are doing our best to purge those accounts from."
Wow, a company told you what was going on.
So they didn't just start purging; they actually they gave a big, huge thing that said, "Hey, disclaimer. You're probably going to see something funky happening. This is why the thing that you think is funky is happening." They just it was that easy. It was just a little banner thing that they put up on the dashboard so that you knew when you were looking at how many people were reading, if you were growing, if that audience was coming back to you, that they were letting you know, hey, there's bot accounts. We're trying to get rid of them. And it was like, oh my God.
No, that's awesome.
Why can't any of these other platforms understand that they should communicate with not just the people who are there to engage in the content? Because that's the thing, is that there is the the difference between some of these accounts is some people go there to engage, and I do go there to engage sometimes, but I go there to create sometimes too. So there sometimes is a distinction between those two types of accounts.
Yeah, there's people that like different parts of different aspects of it as they're, on other. I mean, I'm sure there's people just on YouTube. There's people that do shorts, right? There's people that do what I do. I mean, I do a mix of stuff, but I, for a while there, did all 5 to 8 minute videos, rants, which I want to get back to doing some more of, I think. Again, but it's finding time for everything. I just wanted to make the point, before you leave here, because this is me and you, what quantum cricket has here. You're doing good, Cliff. Don't give up. Or democracy depends on people like you and Tony, which was very kind of you. And that's why I have it, quite honestly. And the difference between me and YouTube is if I ever decide I am going to give up, you'll know well ahead of time. I will talk to you about it. I'll be honest about it. I haven't talked to you about it before right now, just because I never got to a point where I really thought I was going to. I've gotten to a point where it's entered my mind where I'm like, I am putting in so much work. And again, like, I can't tell you guys, but you've done things before, and you have to know, some of you folks in creative fields, there's what you see at the end when something is ready, and there's everything that goes into getting that there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's all the thought process behind the research behind that then putting together. I don't write. I go, a lot of it goes from here, for good or for bad, but I have to take notes, because I do have notes that remind me of broader things I want to say. I have to sit down and do that. Then these streams I have to create, those 8 minute videos I have to create, those shorts I have to create. And you find you're always doing something. You're changing the description of a video because you need to put keywords in, or you need to, like, it is, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And again, and I'm not complaining. Like, I'm here, and I feel like it's for the right reasons. It's for this community. I still enjoy talking to you all a pretty good amount, so that's a good thing. And hopefully it's helping out there. But I just thought people should be aware, as we're talking about things like the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos, that, Tony and I have both dealt with this when it comes to Google, YouTube, and whatever. And I mean, that mindset of, you don't matter, we're not telling you what's going on. And it does. It makes you sit there sometimes and just be like, what am I doing? But again, like, I'm trying to fight through it. I realize that I've got, that I don't think this period can last forever. It's like I was flying up, got to 100,000, and I've been basically where I am right now, honestly, either at that exact place or a little bit lower for almost 2 months now. And it's frustrating as hell. And hopefully, and not because I care about numbers. I care about numbers only in that the financials make this work, so I can do this.
And those numbers make the community work. They do, because that's the thing about, like, when you go to YouTube and you look at our subscriber count over there, it is just a number. But when I look at that's kind of the difference how I see when I go look at my number on Substack. And I see the subscriber there's, I'm like, those are people. It's not just a number. That's a community. Yeah. That's a community of people who for whatever reason or another, they see that my message, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, they feel that it's important, regardless of how it makes them feel or why they're reading it. They feel that it is important to engage in it, and that's what makes a community. And to make a community go around, there has to be structure. So everyone support your local independent media, and by local I mean local right on your phone. And maybe this Substack thing, maybe I'm completely wrong about it. Maybe Jen Rubin's wrong about it. Maybe we're wrong about this, but I feel like there is something brewing amongst people who traffic in information and commentary, specifically, which is us. We traffic in information and commentary.
Right. And now that you said the word traffic, they're definitely going to demonetize. Because they will, just because they heard that word.
We could be talking about the 409.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Like, they're just like, no, you can't say that word. You can't say that word.
71 North. There's terrible traffic. And they're like, oh my God.
Don't demonetize.
Cliff's an international criminal.
Right. He's saying the word traffic on his life.
Honestly, they could, like, that's how random and how just arbitrarily ridiculous it is.
It is.
I will tell people, and just the last thing I'll say before you leave, I'm going to keep trying to grow YouTube. I'm going to keep putting my video content up there, and please keep watching it. Please comment, do all of that stuff on these and on other videos, because that will bust through whatever wall I've hit right now.
Right.
And then Patreon and Substack are the two places I trust the most right now. And I ask you to sign up, and that's the deal. I see you guys. I'll let Tony go. So you guys are talking about what a I'm sorry, I just have to say this. So demonetize me, if you will. What a dick Mel Gibson is. And Mel Gibson. What was he saying? What can he? Something? Right. I can't say it. Right. That's right. I can't say what he said because it was a medical thing. It was that
you'll get
paste.
demonetized because you say what he said, and you're saying it's stupid.
Right. So they're here to play a childish game again where I can't, all I can say is, of course, he's a Nazi. And of course, he once got pulled over by police officers and was drunk and blamed people like me for starting all the wars in the world, which I take offense. I take offense to because I can count at least 3 wars I didn't start, like Second Punic War. That one's on me. Totally. You know what I mean? The Boer War.
100% personally responsible.
Boer War. I was profiting from that. I was there for that one. That's true.
Right.
Crusades. No, they were coming after me on that one.
Right.
They were chasing me down.
Some you're the perpetrator. Some you're the victim is what you're saying.
I'm just saying, not every
we probably
war,
can't even use those words, perpetrator and victim.
Oh my
God! Oh my God!
Can't Mel Gibson use some nuance and just say I'm responsible for like 3/4 of them and be, I mean,
right?
Does he have to blame me for all of them?
Well, I mean, this is what Nazis generally do. This is what
the biggest shame of it is when I had Zaki Hassan on. I know you have to go, so if you just want to jump, but the film guy, critic on here. We're talking about stuff. He was funny. He said basically, my rule is, he's like, anything, I can't watch Mel Gibson or anything since I found out what a Nazi is. He's like, well, I could go back and I could watch. Is
that the only rule he has in film critics?
That's what he said. It works for me. He's like, I can't emotionally do it. He's like, I can watch the Lethal Weapon movies and I love those movies, right? And he's like, because I do. I'm saying, I admit,
absolutely, right.
And he's like, I can go back and watch
writing. It's great writing.
It is. It's because it was before we knew who he was, so you can still sort of pretend he's a good guy, whereas anything he's made in more recent years, when he looks more like himself now, it's impossible to even pretend he's a decent human. So you can't.
I'll just leave you with this. And I'm not a faithful person. I'm an atheist. But I just want to mention that back to Mel Gibson for a second. Mel Gibson's house burned in the fire. So if there's any a thing out there that people are like, hey, there's things that happen for reasons or something, especially the right-wing crowd, the Christian crowd.
Right.
It's
always because it's too many rainbow flags somewhere.
They're spinning conspiracy theories all the time. Who's to say that?
And James Woods. I mean,
that's
a
true.
good as far as I'm concerned, you may have to go up to the fire and see it and say, look, at least partial thumbs up. Mostly you suck. Mostly I hate you, and mostly you suck and you're evil. But you got one or you get one or two things right here and there.
Right. Here and there. All right. Well, I got to get out of here before I get myself in trouble and demonetize you even more. We'll see you, Cliff. See you, audience. We'll see you.
It'll happen anyhow. Take it easy, bud.
We'll see you.
Look what God did, Mel. Yeah. It's fun. You guys want to hear the best part of it that you may already know? He was actually on his broadcast with Joe Rogan when his house burned down. So I tried not to be an evil person, but I'm sorry. That is too funny. So basically, he was sitting there sharing his insane medical views and other right-wing nutty Nazi views. And what he should have been doing is protecting his home. But I'm sure it had nothing to do with the climate or anything. It was me. I sent down some lasers. I bet he's got to believe in that. I think that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene originally said, where that originally came from. It was California wildfires. And I'm even scared to say what she said exactly. That's why I said me and lasers, because I don't know if I say those two words together, kaboom, on what might happen here. It's all a big experiment now to see whether this is monetized or not. But, what are you going to do? Such is life in the big city, as they say. What else do we have going on? So there is Mel Gibson. He's a schmuck. And, his movies pretty much, really more recently suck. The shame of it is most right-wing people are just not creative at all. That's not the shame of it. Yeah, we'll get to the shame of it. They just are terrible. They try to be. They're not funny. And then that's part of the reason they become more right-wing and mad, because they're angry at everybody who doesn't find them funny because they're not funny, right? or they go in the crazy other direction, like Jimmy Dore, I think, got a special on Comedy Central once and was so unfunny he was never invited to have another special. And of course, he decided to line up with the Tulsi Gabbards and that kind of stuff. And go to, he's basically on the right. Call him whatever you want. He's horseshoe. But actors too, but there are exceptions. Mel Gibson actually was an enjoyable actor to watch, and I think was a pretty decent director too, and then lost his mind. John Voight, same deal. There's probably a few others. I don't even grant, I know some people do grant James Woods being a good actor, but he's just playing himself. Sorry, if you're the same evil, like, jackass in every movie, and it turns out you're that same person in real life, that's not really acting. I mean, I could be a sarcastic, obnoxious jerk in every movie role very convincingly because I am. Hopefully not a jerk all the time, but sarcastic and obnoxious. And I don't think that would be acting. I don't know that I would be given credit for that, or should be. I wonder if Gibson goes to church with Jim Caviezel. There's another one. Does that crazy movie again about something I'm not allowed to talk about, or, oh my God, we have to save the children. And it turns out the guy who helps him produce the movie is doing exactly to kids what you would expect. I mean, they're such clowns. Mel Gibson, I don't know what else to say. We can talk about some other fun stuff going on now. I haven't been on since the big Steve Bannon Elon Musk fight happened. And if you're not all enjoying that, then I have to ask, do you enjoy life? Right? In one case, you get Steve Bannon, who is essentially a shelter for homeless ticks and fleas, and you have him going against Elon Musk, the tubby, pale, putrid Putinite. And they are both evil people. But Steve Bannon, man, the H-1B visa stuff, Bannon is a much more effective racist in communicating his racism. Musk only communicates it once in a while. He saves most of his hatred for other groups. Again, don't know whether I can mention them, like his daughter. I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not say. And so Musk, of course, is all about profit. He's a oligarch. Like, there is absolutely some white supremacy in there, a whole lot of it. He thinks this small elite cabal like him should be running things, and he's from apartheid South Africa. But in the end, as long as he can bring people in the end, it's about him making money, right? It's not about the MAGA people, who folks anger at everything that society's done to them, most of which, by the way, has been deindustrialization and things that have come from neoliberalism. And that was an idea that started, again, largely with Reagan. Now, Democrats embrace some of that and are to blame for some of that, but it was so much more conservatives pushing all that stuff, because they also were deregulating industries, which Democrats were not, and things of that nature. So, you get what's his face, pissed at as Bannon pissed at Musk, because Musk isn't enough of a broad racist. When he can make money, he's less of a racist. If he can bring in very well educated people from India who he can pay a lot less money than Americans, magically the racism disappears. It's sort of like the folks in construction and farming who are all racist and they love Trump, but undocumented workers, we can pay them a lot less. We're certainly going to forget our racism for them. Steve Bannon no like that. He wants classic, a national socialist party, as you could call it. Not really socialist, just have that in the name, so it could be like I'm sure the guy that he admires, that guy's party. And Elon Musk is more about the oligarchy, a little cabal running the earth. So he called Bannon said that he will, quote, make sure that by inauguration, clock's ticking, 6 days, that Elon Musk has no influence left in the White House, even though was I talking about it on Bob Seska's show earlier, that Elon Musk has a actual office in the White House, which, again, a guy with as many contracts with China and our defense industry, all the other stuff going on, would have been seen as such a massive conflict of interest, owner of Twitter and all the political positions he's taken. But today the media just shrugs because they're idiots. And Bannon, I don't believe, has a place in the White House. So we'll have to see what happens. But Bannon, if his connection to the MAGA, like crazy right-wing populist racist right, is as much as it used to be, he's going to lead that charge against Elon. Game on. I think he called Elon truly evil. For Steve Bannon to call you truly evil, I'm not sure if that's an insult or a compliment. It certainly is a thing where you could look in the mirror. Again, he'd have to see past all of the ticks and such. Maybe take a shower so his hair wasn't sort of growing from both his head and his face, like the same hair. I don't know. In any case, Did he ever replace Cliff? I'm sure he didn't think so. Matthew Tarpley, I'm not sure. Are you talking about Bannon? In any case, yeah, somebody said Godzilla in there. Let them fight, right? Right. What you want with Godzilla and King Kong is you want them to destroy each other. We can root for that. And again, every right wing fight that you can exploit and you can help, sort of create more wedges between them makes it less likely that they're going to be able to do something horrible. We've got them fighting on immigration. Not we, they started on their own, but a lot of us have done our best to try to add fuel to that fire. And Nick Fuentes, of course, angry also because he's just flat out racist, like Bannon. And, like he doesn't even like the fact that there's so many Indian Americans around the administration. I mean, you got Vivek Ramaswamy, you've got J.D. Vance's wife and family, you've got the Surgeon General nominee, there's others I'm missing. And so, right away, I mean, how do you think Steve Bannon's reacting to the former guy who worked for George Soros, who is in a gay marriage, has kids? He's a former Democrat, Besant. I'm sure Bannon is loving that, as is Nick Fuentes. Although I have my suspicions about Nick Fuentes, but we don't need to discuss that. They still, on the outside, have lots of anger for people that don't follow what their model is of who you should love and when you should love them. But I do think, as has been proven again and again and again, I offer you. See, my little Larry Craig trinket I still have. The Minneapolis. Somebody gave that to me. It's very nice. Bathroom. They've been at this for a long time. He sponsored, by the way, the marriage amendment to ban gay marriage as he was playing Fred Astaire, with his wide stance in the Minneapolis bathroom stalls. Why the Minneapolis airport? I don't know. Someone's going to have to figure that one out. Minneapolis. I mean, I know it's a big airport, but so's Chicago, so's Denver, so's Dallas. Why Minneapolis? Wouldn't have been a place I would have guessed that would have become like, the Copacabana for the Larry Craigs of the world. And again, because he was dancing around. I mean, he did claim his wide stance is why he was toe tapping like a genius, but I'm going to say no, I don't believe that. Other stories. We already talked about the Jack Smith report. Depressing. It's every time, It's like for you folks out there, you wouldn't understand this, but and a much more serious topic. But we joke here about how in Cincinnati, the Bengals find a way. They did a record this year for losing the most games by the fewest points. At some point, they may have lost like 4 games by 6 points or something. The way they break your heart is by getting really close. Like they don't just get their butts kicked; they get close enough that you get invested in it, and then they lose. This may not be the perfect metaphor because again, that's sports, and I don't actually even love football. I love baseball and soccer, but to me, much more important is obviously our daily lives and just what happens on the sports field. And Donald Trump is like that. He's like that in that you sit there and you get so invested in the fact that looks like they finally got him. And somehow he finds some way to threaten somebody, pay somebody, and he ends up not paying a price. And in this case, again, as I've discussed before about all the various other things that are creations of various Congresses, either by accident or on purpose, that literally do not exist in the Constitution. There's no majority leader, therefore there is no filibuster, and therefore Kamala Harris as the presiding officer, as vice president over the Senate, or Joe Biden could have just said, you know what, I'm the presiding officer, we're getting rid of the filibuster, it's an illegal rule. But we and I give Kamala Harris a lot of credit for breaking with past Democratic campaigns and being a hell of a lot more aggressive, mocking Trump, hitting back. So I'm not going up, but we still can't get past that mentality. Republicans, if they needed that, would do that in a second and say, this doesn't exist in the Constitution. Just because it's been some precedent people have followed for 60, 70 years doesn't mean that it's right and it's legal. And by the way, it was barely ever used in the past. And suddenly Mitch McConnell started using it all the time. That's when they should have immediately said it's not in the Constitution and declared it illegal. Well, the same thing goes for this stupid legal opinion given by the Office of Legal Counsel and the Justice Department under Nixon initially that a president could not be prosecuted while they were president because it would make their job very difficult to do. For all of you who are alive and paying attention, do you think Bill Clinton had a difficult time doing his job while they were impeaching him for what was, I think, a disgusting personal betrayal, but still a disgusting personal betrayal and not his job? Do you think when they're impeaching Trump, do you think that took his attention off of his job? Of course it did. So how can you say someone can be impeached and that's okay, but they can't have a legal proceeding against them, which is essentially what impeachment is, with all the hearings and everything. And that's going to distract them from their job. It's dumb. It's not in the Constitution. And there's no reason that we need to respect that. Why so many lawyers and Democratic lawyers, especially when it's the Republicans presidents who, if you look at their administrations, it is they and the people under them who've been committing all the crimes. Look at the number of people indicted who served under Obama versus either George W. Bush or Trump. It's insane, the difference. And so it protects them. That's all it does. It protects their presidents. No one could go after George W. Bush and try to prove he knew about the torture that was going on at some of our bases, that he knew about various other war crimes. It's ridiculous. It's a protection racket. And Democrats, again, out of this congeniality or whatever misguided principles, I mean, it's stupid. If you can be impeached, you can be prosecuted by your president. Other democracies prosecute their presidents. But again, like, he finds these loopholes. That's what Trump found here. It's a loophole. Oh, no, somebody in the legislature, in the office of the counsel or DOJ in 1968 or whenever the hell it was, 71 or 2, said that you can't prosecute a sitting president. So we're going to act like that has the power of the Constitution behind it. Now, we could have tried to prosecute him, and then the Supreme Court could have said he was immune. Okay. We have to listen to them. But then again, there's no law that says the Supreme Court should have 9 justices, appears nowhere, and we should have broken from that precedent too and added more justices when they stole them from us. Would have solved that problem also. You see, if you'll just follow the Constitution, you can actually solve most of our problems instead of following silliness and, trying to be miscongeniality and, all the other things. I sure have a lot of stuff to get off my chest today, don't I? Let me see what's going on with you guys. It's about 3:00 here in the Eastern time zone, the far western part of the Eastern time zone. We are the last ones to get dark and to get light in the Eastern time zone. We're pretty much that. What do we got, kids? Anything good to talk about? Ooh, where was that? The rules are in the U.S. Constitution. Yes, they are. So what else? I'll remind you all that we do appreciate super chats and super stickers here. They do allow me to continue doing this and have all the many fewer thoughts of having to ever put this aside. But I should tell you, I'm sticking it out, and we're going to make this work. Whether combination of YouTube and Substack and Patreon, and I just got monetized on Twitch. So for all you watching me on Twitch here, thank you. I don't know what that's exactly going to mean. I used to play a lot of video games when I was a kid. I'm not a huge gamer, as you could say these days, although I do find them interesting, kind of cool, and I've played with my kids, but not to the point where I've been on people's Twitch streams checking them out. That never really became my thing. So it's kind of nice to be monetized on Twitch. That should help out a bit. But again, as I said, you can join the Patreon. That would be great. I've already sent notes to folks at YouTube membership that I would prefer that you go to Patreon. We're not kicking anybody off, but we did consolidate it to one level. Because it's very difficult to manage both. It's a lot of work. You have to keep cross posting and doing all this stuff. And on top of that, again, I've told you that Patreon, I get your emails and all that. So don't think though, if you're paying the amount to be on the YouTube membership, that you won't get what's promised. You'll still get videos and posts and things that have been promised. You will. Just the Patreon would be a much better place for us and easier to manage. But I digress. So what else we got? Do I think Hegseth is going to be confirmed? Yeah, I feel like Tony asked me that, and I'm not sure if we ever got there. I think it's gonna be really close. I'm gonna go with, well, they only have 52 Republican senators right now because JD Vance is the vice president. Is that how it works? Is he already vice president? So he's not a senator? I saw that the list had only 52 Republicans down instead of 53. So, and 45 Democrats. Where are the other Democrats too? I don't know. Maybe I was looking at a weird list. If they really do only have 52, I mean, I'd be shocked if Murkowski, and I think out of appearance, not because she believes in anything, Susan Collins, who tries to do the fake moderate thing, I think they're both going to vote against Hegseth. I'm not sure about anybody else. That puts you, if they are only at 52, right at 50 votes with a tiebreaker. So I'm not sure. But I'm going to step out on a limb and say I think he loses. I think enough stuff's going to come out that already is going to be expanded upon, and that he loses a couple of Republicans in the process, and also because of his lack of, let's call it, I think they may be scared he'll embarrass them by his behavior, the drinking and the stuff, which we know is not going to stop. It's an actual problem for him. There you go. Vance resigned from the Senate last week. Thank you for that. I thought that's the way it worked, but I'm not sure. So they don't have Vance. And that's important, again, because that means that's one less vote. So if you get Murkowski, Collins, and Tillis, he's done. And I have to believe there's a couple of them in there that see the danger of somebody who, the drinking and the other stuff, and the lack of qualifications. Again, Republicans don't care if somebody's racist. So I don't think that's stopping them. They care about the sexual assault only to the point of where they think it might get them in trouble or embarrass them. And the picture of him alongside Trump, both having that issue and whatever, I don't know. So you add all that up, I definitely think they're losing Murkowski. I'd say there's a very good chance they're losing Collins, and then it just becomes Tillis and a few others that once in a while do the right thing. But I'm going to lean and say I don't think that he makes it. We'll see. This would be another one. You are correct, Tam. You could argue, there could be an argument over what constitutes that. Obviously, a conviction by Jack Smith would have sealed the deal. But some could argue that if you want to judge somebody an insurrectionist, well, a majority of the House impeached him on that cause, and a majority of the Senate voted to convict him, including 7 Republicans. So even though he was not impeached, a majority of the House and a majority of the Senate came to the conclusion that he was an insurrectionist. And it wasn't even close. It was 57 senators. It wasn't like it was 51 even. I think that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment absolutely should apply, and I wish Democrats in Congress would speak up and say that. A few have, but if enough would get up and say and question it, now we're not going to control the House. They're going to, we don't control the House. They're going to stop any bill, but why not get up and at least fight the fight? And we know the Supreme Court will protect him. But you're right in your general point, which is there were 6 senators who had stood against, said they, stood against Lincoln and didn't accept him as president. And guess what? They kicked them all out of the Senate from southern states because they used to follow the Constitution. At least in some ways, as we know, they did in others. And the Colorado Supreme Court adjudicated him to be an insurrectionist. That is true. But did the U.S. Supreme Court overturn that or not? That's what I don't know, because he was allowed on the ballot in the end. So does the U.S. Supreme Court coming to that conclusion undo? I don't know. The point is more than enough evidence, if we don't get into these legal little wranglings, that he is an insurrectionist. He was charged. He was indicted. A majority of senators and House members, including numerous Republicans, found him to be such. 10 Republicans in the House, 7 in the Senate. I mean, again, it should be easy, and it should have been the call right away that there's no way he should have been able to do this. Ridiculous. But yes, and SCOTUS is in the bag for him. I mean, they're not. I call them Republicans in robes for a reason. They're not justices in any sense of the word justice. They're not judges. They're little Federalist Society robots that were sort of taken. It's like they're like the stormtroopers in Star Wars universe. They're taken at a young age and trained by the Federalist Society to be evil. And so they carry out their duty. Well, I would, Gracie, I would hope you're correct that I hope it doesn't take a French Revolution too. Um, um, it's an interesting thing, country. I'll put that up there. But I'll say quickly, if the Republican, if it takes a French Revolution, we're all in trouble. Remember, Robespierre was a radical one week, and the next week he was having his head chopped off. Actual violent revolutions, really, usually, we got lucky. Remember, George Washington was offered the crown and rejected it and said we were going to be a republic. Had he accepted it, everything's different. How many times do you think in history that's happened? All the revolutions normally lead to the violent kind, like that. Now, you may have no other choice if you have a fascist regime in power, but if you can reform via government, via bureaucracy, and you can change rules and laws with ballots and not bullets, that is the way you should do it. Because once you start a revolution, you don't know where it ends. Remember, there's a democratic, as in somebody you would vote for, official for about 6 months in control of Russia, Kerensky, after their revolution. And then Lenin displaced him, and we know that history. It usually works out that way. Would once Substack go with live streaming, Cliff and Tony, others should go strictly to Substack and let all of us repost their content videos, whatever helps creators stay on. Yeah, I mean, listen, we will, maybe Tony, I'll band together in our own little union, but we will certainly consider all of that. Right now, again, though, it's essential for me to stay on YouTube, continue to post videos. It's just hard to motivate myself, especially on some of the shorter videos, to put in the work I used to. I used to do a lot of the editing and try to add in funny movie clips, which some of you who've been here a while may remember. And I'm doing less of that because I can't put in the time when right now, like, a lot of the videos are just, it seems like they're mired in quicksand. And I'm having trouble breaking into 5 digits even recently. Like a couple of them went to 13,000. I think one of them went to 22 or 24. I think the biggest one, the interview here, actually, I put it on as a separate video with Malcolm Nance. I think hit 46 or 47,000, but I haven't smelled 100,000 in at least 2 months. And again, I don't remember the last time that happened. I don't know what's going on there, and it's harming everything. Maybe I'm not making as good content. I'd like to think that I am. The Civil War didn't turn out like that. Well, I don't know. How do you think the Civil War turned out? We had the most number of Americans killed in a war. A whole ton of us died. If you want to say the Southerners who died weren't Americans, you could say that, but okay. The Northerners who were fighting that war did. There were whole areas of the United States in parts of the North in the early battles that were kind of burnt to the ground, not good. And what did it accomplish in the end? We let the guys off the hook. The guys that you could argue should have paid the price. Lincoln was killed, and I'm not saying what did it accomplish. Obviously, it freed slaves, but what I'm saying is, was it all? In the end, we went into Jim Crow, which was not slavery, but we didn't accomplish the goals of what it was supposed to accomplish. Like, we didn't free Black Americans like they should have been. I think there was about 10 or 12 years while Ulysses Grant was in power, because he actually was even to the left of Lincoln on racial issues. But then Rutherford B. Hayes came in. There was a dirty deal made for electoral votes in Florida. Shocker there. And I mean, we stared at another 80 years of fascism in the South. Call it whatever you want. If you were Black, you couldn't question anything. You couldn't argue with anything. You couldn't eat at the same counter. You couldn't drink from the same water fountain. I mean, better than slavery, I'm not saying, but it didn't accomplish its goal to free people, is all I'm saying. It partially did. A lot of people died. It partially did. It absolutely was a war worth fighting, to ban slavery. I'm not saying any of that stuff, but I'm just saying so is that the kind of war that you'd say is worth it? If that's what you have to do, yeah. But it's not the one you want. It's not one where I'd say everything went great and like exactly what we wanted to accomplish, happened. Yeah. Carl Jacobson, the Civil War is still alive and kicking south of the Mason-Dixon line. Throughout the Central Plains. Yeah, the airports we watched, Mr. WW, during War of 1812, as Donald Trump has helpfully told us. And we reelected him because we do stuff like that. Apparently, staring at eclipses wasn't enough. I don't know, man. I don't know what the guy would have had to do. Telling people to do other things that I'm not allowed to say on here, on live TV, weren't enough. Let's say cleaning products. How about that? I'll say that. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So I was trying to figure out how to say that. I mean, crazy. Gerrymandering, yes. Gerrymandering is a problem. Fugitive Slave Act, Jim Crow. Jim Crow, look, I mean, obviously, and if you're under Jim Crow and you could get the resources together, you could move to the North. There is also plenty of racism in the North, but at least it wasn't, it was more de facto than de jure. It wasn't in the laws. And so I'm not going to, again, I'm not saying the Civil War is absolutely worth it and the people were lost. It was a shame, but we needed to free people from bondage. I'm just saying, the results of any large scale war is a messy and anywhere thing. When things go wrong in war, unlike in other aspects of life, people die, lots of them. And it's why you try to avoid wars if you can. Again, that's your last hope against a fascist regime. Absolutely. But you hope it doesn't get to that point and maybe you can reform it through other methods. Yeah, well, look at that. Almost like that was what I was trying to say. Well, Wayne, you may be right. Gawl, a good French name. 21st century suffragettes. I keep hearing about you guys. Heard good things. Very good things. What else we got for today, guys? Anybody here do me a solid and join Patreon? It doesn't pop up here in as cool a way when you do that. But if you did, let us know. And I will give you a shout out of the kind you deserve for being a gentleman or woman and a scholar. And of course, again, I will remind you, even a 99-cent super sticker, even a small super chat of $1, I mean, like any little amount, it all helps us. There we go, Barbara. Barbara, you are awesome. You have joined Patreon, and that will enhance your life and my life. So you see, we all benefit from it. I'm going to add something to that too. I think I didn't think about it. Tony made me think about it. I forgot you can live stream there. So what I'm going to do is, keep up the live streams here, but I'll start. I can't add too much more stuff. Like I'm already going to give you guys there 2 videos a week. If you're on the right level, everybody's going to get stuff for free the first week or 2 who's joining now, so they can see what you get at the $5 level and above, which is really the kind of main level. And then I'll kind of, you'll get the certain amount that you're promised and everything. But I may add one live stream that I'll do for most folks or everyone to it a month. That's maybe something I could fit in there. We'll see. Well, thank you. Denise, I appreciate that. But again, I always say to people, like, if it's, when you say once you get your paycheck, like if anything ever is paycheck to paycheck, I tell you the same thing. And I very much mean it. Do not join if it's going to put you in any kind of situation. There's even a chance it's going to put you in a harmful situation where you cannot afford what you do. Do not do that. Okay. Your family is more important than this live stream. But if you can, if you're somewhere in there and your folks are lucky enough to have the funds and you're in there and you can up your level, do it. If you're not there at all, but you can go and you can join, do that. That's what I'm asking for those who can and can do it and are comfortable financially doing it. And I should say to the few of you who've sent me emails about ways that we can try to get you in there, I will answer those emails. I've meant to. Lots is going on. Just getting the Patreon up and ready and getting a Substack close to ready. There's always a new project, my friends. Now I have to sign up I think I have to fill out some more stuff at Twitch because I've been monetized there. So thank you, Twitchers. I'm not sure what you're called, but that's as good as anything, right? We can drop Cliff's links on our show. Yes. Yes, Elizabeth. I'm not. I don't know which show that is, but whatever show that is, thank you. Please drop those links. That would be awesome. Seriously, that's awesome. JD Hogg Vance, very good. I like that. Yeah. Lefty Gramps, who will DeWine pick to replace Shady Vance? Good question. So we don't do a pick here. We have an election. It's the same way, it's that way in most states, right? Where members of Congress, they appoint somebody first and then there's an election. Whereas the Senate, I don't know, it's been traditionally done that way and a few states changed it, but we have not, to my awareness. So we would have it vacant. I'm hoping Sherrod Brown runs because honestly, the only thing that defeated Sherrod Brown was Donald Trump. If Trump hadn't been on that ticket, Vance has gone. Sherrod Brown has gone against the tide so many times, won over enough like Trump type voters and stuff like that. He had lost by fewer than 10 points, he would have won. I think he lost. If Kamala Harris had lost by fewer than 10 points here, he would have won. He outperformed the top of the ticket by a decent amount. I want to say that he lost by 5 to 6 points in the end, and we lost by 13 to 14 on the presidential level. So he outperformed by almost 10 points, but there's only so much you can outperform the top of the ticket. Now, if we have a special election, there is no top of the ticket. All those marginal Trump voters, they only come out when he is actually on the ballot. When he tells them to go out and vote, they don't listen. It's happened again and again and again. So I think absolutely. And I think also people are going to be turning against Trump because he'll be failing, as we know he will be, and not living up to any of his promises. So, I mean, to me, the most obvious one is for Sherrod Brown to run and win that seat. And I think he absolutely could. All right, Elizabeth explains. So that's the 21st century suffragettes. All right. That is where I guess you would share my links. Thank you. And, if I can do the same for you guys, let me know. Always happy to help out others who are, in the same biz, trying to make this work. I think you said that. Will you drop our link is what you're asking me. And of course I will. That was easy. As far as I'm concerned, I'm always happy to help other folks. What do you have? I was surprised Sherrod Brown lost. Again, Sherrod Brown and John Tester, it's just a shame those two guys were in the states they're in. They are two of the most natural campaigners, most authentic people, charismatic. Like those two guys are fantastic. And either of them had been in states where they had not lost by each of them outperformed the top of the ticket by like 8-10 points. Had Sherrod Brown been in Pennsylvania, he wins that race. Had he been in Michigan, he wins that race. Arizona, he wins that race. Like most of the states, it's just he could not overcome the huge win by Trump here. And even saying huge win by Trump here makes me want to hurl. You're saying you're betting on Husted. Again, I don't think that there's anybody who is appointed. I think it's just an election. Husted will get into that race. Absolutely. I agree with you. LG, if I can call you that. He's going to get into it. And LaRose may want to be governor, but he came in third place even when he ran in that Senate race. He's a loser. I don't see him getting anywhere. And yeah, I hate to say it, but I feel that way these days too. I could live with us when we were still even a lean red swing state when Trump won here, but then we reelected Sherrod Brown, and we reelected a couple of Supreme Court justices. We even a year before we were able to pass the abortion rights thing. But last year, this past election was such a disaster here, where they even lied enough to trick people to vote for gerrymandering because they said it was against it, and where Sherrod lost and Trump won so big here. I mean, I'm not going to say this. I leave it up to other people in other parts of Ohio to do what they do, but I refer to myself at this point as a Cincinnatian. Like, I don't even refer to myself as an Ohioan. I'm embarrassed about it at this point. And I don't say that to insult any of you who are watching this who live in other parts of Ohio. If I lived in Cleveland, I'd say I'm a Clevelander or whatever you say. I'd do the same if I was in Columbus, if I were in any of the blue areas. And if you're in a red area, I feel bad for you. I just do. But I'm just going to say, Cincinnati here has 5-star restaurants. It has 2 sports teams that theoretically, or 3 that are professional, even if they don't always play like it. It's got some of the best arts in the country. It's got like one of the top 2 or 3 children's hospitals in the country. We have, major corporations that actually employ lots of people here, Procter and Gamble and stuff like that. Like this is a very liberal, thriving town at this point with about, I think the city itself voted about 85% for Kamala, and the county around us keeps going more and more to the left. I think Hillary was the first to win it since, if I'm right, since LBJ, and she won it with 50 something percent. And by the time Biden got over 60, I think Kamala got approaching 70% here, at least 65. Could look it up at some point. So, again, I don't do it to disrespect anybody else, but like I'm not proud of being from Ohio at all anymore. With what it's done. So I say I'm from Cincinnati when people ask. And then if they ask further, I say, well, I'm from Cincinnati, which is in Ohio, but I grew up in New York City and spent a lot of time in Philly and lived in Europe twice and try to get to other stuff. Cause again, like I'm sorry, I can't help it, man. I look around this place and like not where I'm sitting right now and not my area, but when I drive 30 minutes from here, so the way some of the people voted for Trump who are destitute and have no health care, and I don't want anything to do with that. Anything to do with that. Hillary was right. If that's what you're saying, that they're deplorables. What else do we have? Do we want a FAFO segment? I have an older one. You know what's a good FAFO segment? Here, hold on. Here's some great FAFO. So what we have is judge spikes 2 witnesses in Rudy Giuliani trial of whether he can keep Yankees rings and his Florida condo. I can say this happily as a Yankees fan. He may have to give up his Yankees rings to Ruby Moss and what, I can't think of the other name. I'm sorry, but he may have to give his Yankees World Series rings, which he never should have been gifted, but of course was because he was mayor and go to all the games. And oh my God, if they took those from him and they take his Florida condo, guys, I mean, I knew back then what a fraud this guy was. Most New Yorkers, he's at 35% approval rating. Everyone hated him. He was a racist. He picked fights with everybody. Just a jerk. And 9/11 happens. And most people don't know this, but he's like he's some hero or whatever. He said the right things that day, walking around with soot on him like he was this tough guy outdoors. But most people don't know why he was outdoors. You see, he was outdoors because the corrupt hack that he was, he chose to put his counterterrorism center in real estate owned by a big developer who had given him money, campaign funds, and that was in the World Trade Center, which was the only place where New York had experienced a major terrorist attack before like that, because they tried in '93 with the car bomb. So he puts it in there, the dumbest place to put it, where they're aiming for. His counterterrorism center is blown up. He's outdoors on the street, and then he gets turned into Winston Churchill. And he could have cruised through life. I mean, he had the security consulting firm that would consult for any crazy group of people, religious cult, foreign dictators. He didn't care because he's Rudy Giuliani. Make all this money. He could have made money for years and been known as America's mayor and gotten away with all of it, what he really was. But he had to have more power, could not help himself. So he attached himself to Trump. And it's been a disaster ever since then. His reputation's been absolutely destroyed. He's been stripped of his assets. He's losing money. That's FAFO, folks. He threw it in with Trump, and he got thrown out like the garbage that he is. So that's a fun FAFO segment. Sheldon, thank you. We got our first one. Hopefully that will become contagious here. Thank you for the super sticker. I really very much appreciate that. I'll have to watch that. Lawrence is the one on MSNBC. I'm not a cable news watcher, as I've said before. I don't like any of it. And I used to go on all those things, but O'Donnell used to work on Capitol Hill, worked on campaigns. He's by far the one I like the most because he knows his stuff. Yes, the fire departments needed new walkie-talkies, and Rudy didn't get them. That was another thing. Yeah, I did a whole report on this, so I didn't get into that. But so the walkie-talkies the firemen had, just think about this for a second on 9/11, were not compatible with the walkie-talkies the police had. They couldn't talk to each other. So when they saw things going on, like maybe the building was going to fall, they could not tell the folks inside. Can you imagine? Imagine a Democrat doing that. I don't even care. It should be beyond politics. It is sick and disgusting. And what he was probably using the money on were all sorts of personal things. Who the hell knows? But did not get them. So he didn't get them new walkie-talkies. He didn't have a counterterrorism center because he was corrupt and had it built in his friend's place, even though it was the most likely place to be attacked. Like, he was a failure. But he walked around and said a couple of the right things, and people were in a big, pro, anything about New York mood, and he got away with it. And he would have gotten away with it for the rest of his life. That's what's so incredible, that he chose to literally screw himself. So Fafo, baby, country, you are fantastic. Thank you, $10 super sticker. Now we're talking. I appreciate it. I need these in case they unmonetize me. I don't know. I need to come up to mononucleosis me. I need to come up with some creative names for them screwing me on the financial side here. I refuse to buy cable. If I can't get OT or Extreme, I don't need it. That's cool. Aunt 516. Yeah. I am a streamer. We have cable, I think, on one TV because we need it for a few things that we've not been able to get online. In case we need local news, I think it is, because if there's a storm going on here, a tornado, which they don't hit Cincinnati very often because we're surrounded by, we are lucky enough to be surrounded by hills, the 7 hills, as they're called around here. So that ends up other areas. Sadly, I'm not hoping stuff on other people. In Columbus, it's much flatter. They tend to get hit by more tornadoes. The hills protect us a little more, but we still get tornadoes, and we get storms, and we get other things. And local news, it bleeds, it leads. So I find that to be garbage too. I don't watch, but I need to have it in case I need to know what's going on, like in an emergency. So I think we've got cable on one TV. Otherwise, we totally stream. And I would not pay for a cable on any other TVs. And if I have to pay for it on any, I wouldn't. I just, again, like, to me, the cable news shows, they're just, if they're going to keep going for ratings and, and be stupid and all that, I don't care if they claim to be on our side or whatever. Like, I just found after a while, I was getting dumber watching them, and I had no interest. We've had some other awesome people step in. So I want to say thank you, Cynthia Donegan, a $9.99 super sticker. Thank you. Thank you. That's huge and important, and I really appreciate it. Lefty Gramps, my Ohio pal, with a $3 super sticker. Thank you so much. And Lefty Gramps, I don't want you to know that I noticed you joined Patreon. I did see it, and I do thank you for that too. That's awesome, and it is incredibly helpful. So thank you, guys. This is good. Tornado hit Blue Ash in 99 from someone. Yep, Blue Ash is just north of Cincinnati. So NNYL knows what he or she speaks of. Yeah, they do hit here. I'm not saying never. I'm just saying that, in fact, since I've lived here now a dozen years, there have been 1 or 2 that have come through. Not our part of town, luckily for us. It happens. But the hills actually a number of times have been a good barrier, and that's why it happens less than at other places. There you go, Cynthia. My voice is soothing. All right, I like that. I was told at points in the past, I don't think when I first started doing radio, that I guess my voice is deeper, so it works for radio. I don't know. Or maybe it's not. And then somebody was just making something up to make me feel good. But you find it soothing, and I appreciate that. I only pay $10 a month for internet, stream everything. Elizabeth, well, that's a good gig. Is over-the-air television an option in Cincy? I don't know. I should, the OTA, I know. I should look it up, and I should know more. I mean, because there may be a way to completely get rid of cable, and it's sort of like it's one of those things I'd like to do. Because again, I don't watch it. Um, it's like a break. The one TV is sort of the break glass in case of emergency kind of thing. But and Elizabeth has we're getting tornadoes in California now. That was like from the day after tomorrow, right? I mean, like something they came up with in a movie. Well, our climate change has gotten us there because there's all sorts of crazy stuff happening. Because it was those fires, they were always happening deep up in the forest, and now they're happening down further in cities and everything. We just had our 6th or 7th biggest snow day, and again, I know that's not like our biggest one ever, but when you start adding it to other stuff, other weird, very hot, very cold sort of fluctuations that have happened in Cincinnati, it's all getting wackier out there. And I'm this weird in that when 97% of scientists say something, yeah, you want to believe Mel Gibson over them, of course. I mean, a crazy guy who rants and raves when he's pulled over drunk driving about all sorts of groups of people like me, you want to believe them because they clearly seem like they're sane. But I'm going to go with the 97% of scientists. I think I'm going to do that. I pay 24-ish a month for internet. That's not too bad. Yeah, we're back to insulting Mel Gibson in there again. Sorry, I had to bring him back up. What a shame. Wolfman Jack. This is my voice. Excellent. I'll listen more. I know Wolfman Jack, but I'll listen more to the exact stylings so I can really try to get it exactly right. I was told always that it was deep and gravelly. Well, it is what it is. What else we got, folks? Anything else going on? We can stay, we can go, we can do a variety of things. Kind of whispery. Well, I don't know if you're talking about me, whispery when I'm not worked up about something. When I am, I start becoming less whispery and more yelly. Get me talking about YouTube demonetizing me, and I get less whispery. 21st century suffragettes, you are welcome for the shout out, of course. Snowing in North Michigan, we get from Michael McAndrews. Oh, please, snow, don't come this way again. It was fun when I first got back from I got back from my trip abroad, and I got back on a Saturday night late, and then there was Sunday, and I was exhausted, but I wanted to go to the gym and do some stuff, made myself do it, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna be so tired for Monday. And then Monday it snowed, and we didn't have to go to anything. Kids didn't have to go to school. I didn't have to come in here, and so that was actually what I would call the perfect snow day. But I've now had enough. It's now snowed on a couple occasions, and we don't need it anymore. What else? What else we got? I kind of covered most of the topics I wanted to cover. Well, another good one. I'm going to talk about him in a rant too, but this is something for you cable watchers. That's funny, Amy. I thought Cliff was repeating himself, but I accidentally rewound without realizing. I could have hit my head on something. It happens. Lose track of where I am, just start repeating myself. If I start doing that, just turn me off and turn me back on, and I should be fine. I was going to bring up the Scott Jennings files. Here's one. I should ask you guys. I know stuff about him because he was Mitch McConnell's guy, and I worked against McConnell, and he was McConnell's little woman of the night, which sounds sexist these days. So let's call him a little man of the night. Do whatever McConnell asked him to do. I may do a rant on Jennings because he's been getting ripped by Democrats on CNN. I don't watch the cable, as I said, but I do see the clips online, and it's been so much fun watching Jennings getting torn apart because he's such a sniveling little. I can't stand him. He's just like he's like, when you see a movie, you ever see PCU where they mock the preppy kids who are like, all wear they all wear their docksiders without socks, and they're all in their little suits, and they're like, when they get into their place, they're like, who is the best president ever? when you knock on the door, there's secret code Reagan, and you get in and all that. Like, that's what Scott Jennings, and he's like a stereotype of just an obnoxious little Republican wasp who just has never cared about anybody but himself in life. Sniveling little weasel. Well said, Matthew Tarpley. And supposedly he's been getting his butt kicked. Has anybody seen any of those? Because I may end up watching a few, putting them together for a rant video. Be fun. What kind of inhumane monsters created Mitch McConnell? It's true. You have to know who his parents are. And he actually, when he first ran, I know a lot more than anybody would want to know about McConnell. Having worked against him a few times, written some articles for, an article for the Washington Monthly years ago about him, about how dangerous he was before he was majority leader. And since, for various things, he was a moderate Republican. He's everything. He's an absolute fraud you think he is. He was pro-choice. He was pro-union. That's how he first got elected in Jefferson County, which is the area around Louisville. He faked like a pro-union Republican, and he'd worked for a moderate Republican. What was his name? I can't think of it. Senator. Hold on, we're gonna get it for you. John Sherman from Kentucky. I believe that's who he worked for. Oh, John Sherman Cooper. No, that's it. John Sherman Cooper, who was a moderate. Seriously, there were Republican. Back then, things were so mixed up that if you had Republicans from places like Kentucky, because the Democrats were the more right-wing party, they'd be moderate. And that's who Mitch worked for. And he was like a total Rockefeller Republican. But then when he saw Reagan, when he saw the direction things were headed, and he became a right-winger, because Mitch is nothing if not a complete soulless, empty husk of a 250-year-old turtle. Doesn't know where he is at any given moment, of a sellout. Let's see. I hated that Harry Reid got played by him every time. Harry Reid did get played by him a lot, although when he did use the then called nuclear option, and we got all our judges put on there, that was one of the only times I've seen a Democrat break with precedent and say enough, and not follow the stupid precedent that was created that wasn't based in the Constitution, but actually the Constitution. I should have gotten rid of it for Supreme Court justices too. And he didn't. So you can say he didn't go far enough, but at least he got rid of it for other justices. And that allowed us to put a ton of judges on the courts during the Obama years that we wouldn't have otherwise. So that one time was pretty cool. But yeah, McConnell's outplayed a lot of people. He's pure evil, and he's never had a real life. If you think he and his wife, there's any love there. It's a corporate marriage. Her connections in China and is here. And I mean, all he ever did, I've heard the stories from behind the scenes people. He works, not anymore, I'm sure, of the shape he's in, but he used to work 24/7. That's all he did was sit around and think about power. He's pathetic, and he's had a pathetic life, which is why none of his daughters talk to him. His ex-wife doesn't talk to him, who's liberal, by the way, because once he sold out, became what he became, the people that had loved him no longer did. So in some ways, he suffered in a way he deserves, although it could never get bad enough for him. Yeah, when you said here, Michael McAndrews, after Trent Lott, that McConnell was the next bad thing. Let's see if I can even find it. Because that's what I wrote. I predicted he was going to be the majority leader and that he was going to be awful. Here's one of them. There were two pieces I wrote on him for Washington Monthly magazine. There's one. And then I wrote one on what he had done in Kentucky. It was sort of a complimentary piece to explain why I knew what I knew. And that had to do with what he had done in Kentucky. If you read this, I mean, this is such a timepiece. Like, you'll just go back in time and be like, you'll be shocked at the stuff I'm talking about that McConnell's going to do, not just because some of the predictions were right, but because of the fact that, like, it'll seem like so much more of an innocent time when things that are now regular were frowned upon and not done. There's the other one. That one I wrote myself. First one I wrote with somebody. Yeah, Gingrich and McConnell, poli-sci professors. Maybe they learned what they could do to trick everybody and destroy everything and ruin our country. No good. So what else we got, guys? I think we're coming towards today's a long day for me. As you know, I went on Tony's show for 10 or 15 minutes. And then my weekly show with Seska is with Bob Seska. It's a 2-hour thing. So that's a lot of time. It's like 4 hours, 5 hours talking today. All right, there's something I can talk about for a little bit. Grace E. Cliff, how was your trip to France? I'm going in March. It was fantastic, and frankly, it was reinvigorating. I had to do it. So glad I went. I'd studied there, so I speak the language relatively well. Gotten worse since I haven't lived there, but to go back and speak language again, the food, the wine, the countryside, especially in the south, I love, and that's where I studied. Was near Nice. So we went down there to this little town called Villefranche, which is right next to Nice. And then we went to Rubin, another town near there that overlooks Monaco. And there's this trophy they gave to Augustus when he and the Romans conquered that part of Gaul. It was fascinating. We did that. A bunch of other small towns. And then we were in Paris for 2 days. We actually walked up to the second level of the Eiffel Tower. I'm pretty proud of myself for that. It's like 45 floors up. That hurt, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. But it was, I can't say enough. I mean, I love it there. So give me the, good, a French lunch or, whatever brunch of like a great baguette and some cheese and whatever, a little good wine or whatever. And I'm a pretty happy guy. The weather was very good in the South for this time. It was, probably around 60 or something, high 50s, which is pretty good in the South of France this time of year. It's a little colder in Paris, high 30s. In any case, I liked it. Nobody wants filthy Americans in their country anymore by Benny Loco. That may in fact be true. But I did my best to speak the language, be respectful, and apologize for Donald Trump. Because he's a blight on humanity. But in any case, France was a good time. And I recommend it, among other places. France and Italy, I think, are my two favorite places to go. The spirit of people there, the languages are beautiful. They both have great food and great wine. There's a lot to like. Beautiful countryside. And I actually got to see one French, one Italian, works out well, friend of mine, two very good friends that I haven't seen in 25 years. So that was fantastic too. They did not throw tomatoes at me. Don't worry. I think I'm gonna call this one right now. If there's nothing else big going on, we're at about approaching the hour 45-minute mark, which I think is pretty solid for one of these. Roxanne Epstein throws in, I love Paris, beautiful food, and beautiful food, and the food is amazing. Yes. It was fantastic, wonderful. And you guys are fantastic and wonderful. So the couple things I say is you're awesome. Thank you for being here, whether you're here through YouTube, Twitch, even I still do stream to Twitter. I'm glad if you came here through Twitter because I'm glad you're here. And we'll do that until I shut my account down there. But again, I'll ask you the last time, join me at Patreon if you can, where I'm going to be regularly contenting, if you will. And we have more of a direct relationship, which is cool. Join me at Substack also. That will be a great place for you to find me. Please, though, do subscribe. Cliff's Edge on YouTube. We are mired in quicksand, and maybe a bunch of new subscriptions if you haven't. Would help. Michael McAndrew says, I'm on YouTube. Find him too. I'll find you, Michael, and I'll subscribe. But yeah, subscribe on YouTube, and help us get back to where we were before the craziness of the last month or two. And come on, am I going to let me, no Jerry Maguire on the way out? Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Come on. All I need is one super chat, super sticker, Superman, Superwoman, super duper. Anyone? Who's coming with me? Just don't make me take the goldfish. In all seriousness, you guys are awesome. And as I've said before, it usually happens when I'm actually closing down. Somebody jumps in, which is funny and kind of awesome. But you guys, as usual, again, that's why I do this. Is a fantastic community. People are so kind and you know, and Michael McAndrews, look at that, comes in with the win. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Michael. That's awesome. And again, I always just kind of consider that a great way to kind of hit out the door, and then Sheldon used. I told you this always happens with a $2 super sticker. Thank you again, Sheldon. You guys are fantastic. It is a good way to leave on a positive note. Again, I'm not unhappy. I'm actually love this community, and I love the places we have to interact. And yes, it even includes that I get to interact with you through YouTube. As much as I've complained lately, just a little frustrated. But once we get those numbers moving again up, and once we get the subscriptions moving up, so please subscribe. And once we get the views moving up again, so please watch my videos. Then, Michael, you're too good of a person, is what you are. You're amazing, and I don't know that words could do it that justice. So thank you so much. Seriously, that is fantastic. And everything like that, the smaller ones, the bigger ones, again, all that lets me do this longer and more, and really, it makes me psyched here to be here all the time. I'm not great, Michael. You are great. I'm good. How about that? I'll accept that. Thank you. And, Michael, let us know where, I don't know if this time or next time, but let us know where your YouTube is so we can promote that, because I would like to let people know where to find you. But I am on the way out. So if you could put it up quickly, or we will get it up next time, because you are here a lot, which I also thank you for. All right, I'll start heading on out. Be good, guys. I'll see you about tomorrow. I've talked to a few people. Maybe we'll have a guest tomorrow. And so that'll be interesting. I'm going to follow up with this person and see if they are still good. Otherwise, we'll just have a good, fun, old-fashioned talk like we did today. I'll rant away, and we will solve all the problems of the world. Oh, Matthew. Okay, Matthew has just straightened it out that Michael said that he got this on YouTube, not that he's on YouTube. You're just saying you see me on, saying I use YouTube to watch Cliff. All right. That's what we like to see. Well, if you know what your YouTube thing is, you let us know and we'll tell you where to find you. And before I go, Gracie jumps in with the $5 super sticker. You guys are the best. You really are. I love you guys. You're awesome. We're going to keep this going. I promise you. So I will be back tomorrow. And for that, just have a great day, have a great night. And, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell.